Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be bringing you a review and a mini tutorial on the new Tati Beauty palette. Now before you click out of this video and say, yeah, I've heard tons and tons of reviews, there's nothing more I need to know about this palette, hang in there with me because there's a couple pieces of precautionary advice that I have to give regarding this palette. So if you're interested in hearing my thoughts, seeing a tutorial on this super easy everyday look, then just keep on watching. So for starters, the packaging. When I received my palette, it came in this box and inside is a picture of Tati, the beautiful Tati. She is all glittered out in this picture, which gives you an indication of something that's going on in this palette. Now the palette itself comes with an outer sleeve. This is the outer sleeve, and this gives the information on the ounces and the ingredients. Very important, we're gonna get back to that. And then this is the actual palette itself. It is that heavy duty cardboard, but it has that matte rubberized texture, which is not my favorite, if I'm being honest, because it does get really dirty. But it does sure look really nice when it's brand new. It has this really nice raised lettering here in kind of a copper finish, and it says volume 1, which everybody is assuming means there's going to be more. On the inside is a full-size, generously sized mirror. It's a great quality mirror, and then you can fold back the cover and there are 24 shadows. Now let me move over here. So she did something very unique, which I'm sure you've heard everybody talking about. She didn't feel the pressure to name every single color. Instead, she named the color family and then gave you a different finish for each color family. So each color is set out by, this is Pout, Aura, Soothe, Story, Ritual, and Memory. And then she has 4 finishes, and so each row is that finish. So the bottom row is matte, the second row is sequin, we have metallic, and then the glitter row. So I'm going to go ahead and pop up here some swatches and talk about the formula as you see those swatches. So the first row of mattes. These mattes are super pigmented. They do blend overall pretty well. The darker ones take maybe just a little more work to blend, but they are not powdery, but very pigmented and super soft and silky to touch. The second row from the bottom is the sequin row, and this was one of her more unique textures. It's not that we haven't seen eyeshadows like this before, but these glitter particles, so it's like a matte base with glitter particles in them. What I think is unique about this formula is the glitter actually does stay with the shadow and translate onto the lids. Now, if I'm being honest, this is not my favorite formula of a shadow to use because I would rather it be just matte or metallic. So that is my next favorite row, and that's the metallic row. And for the most part, these are all super buttery, creamy. They do apply well with brush or better with the finger. This one though, the Story one, I did find that one to be a little more gritty in texture, and it did not apply well for me yesterday with a brush. But I went in with my finger, got plenty of pigmentation. And then of course, the final row of glitters. Okay, so as you look at these swatches, they are beautiful. There is no question about that. You can see there are multiple different colors within each glitter that make them just super reflective and just jaw-dropping, right? As you apply them, they are gritty at the beginning. You can feel that grit in there, but as you continue to press your finger onto your skin, you do feel them kind of binding together, and the glitter does not fly everywhere, which is appreciated, right? But as you will notice in my eye look today, I did not use any of those glitters, and I also did not use some of my favorite go-to kinds of shadows, which are these. So why did I not? Well, that is the piece of information that I'm not hearing any other reviewers talking much about. And that is the fact that when you look on the back of the outer sleeve where it has the ingredients, when I first got the palette, I was checking back here just to see where it was made. Cruelty-free, great. And then I noticed the asterisk that says not intended for use in the immediate eye area. And I thought, oh no, this can't be true. Now, in searching through the different shadows, it was determined that there are 9 shadows in this palette that have that warning label, not for use in the immediate eye area. Of course, it's the whole glitter row. And then it's these 2 shades in the Pout row. So it's the matte and the sequin shadow in the Pout row, and it is the memory metallic. So you might be asking yourself, what does that exactly mean? Does it mean I just can't use it as eyeliner, but I can use it in the crease? What does that mean? Well, I ran into this about a year or so ago with ColourPop eyeshadows. And after being perplexed about this, seeing it in maybe one shadow included in a palette or more, I decided to email the company and say, what does this mean? And the response that I was given is basically what is true of this warning label. It means that that shadow contains ingredients that are not approved by the FDA for use on the eyes, not as shadow, not as liner or anything. However, ColourPop said, we leave it up to our consumers' discretion on whether or not they want to use them on their eyes. I thought, oh no, who knows about this? Who's reading ingredients? So that kind of started me looking into a little more of ingredients, but I thought it was mostly just ColourPop doing this. Well, earlier this year, Anastasia Beverly Hills released some really highly intense pigment shadow palettes, and several in those shadows have that warning label, or what I saw them do is they have labeled those shadow colors as cheat colors. Well, I pulled out my Carly Bible palette from Anastasia Beverly Hills that I just got recently and noticed that the shade right here is labeled as a cheat color. So when I looked at the Tati Beauty palette cover in closer inspection, I noticed this is called a pressed powder palette. So that means that there are shadows in here that aren't going to be deemed by the FDA as safe to be used on the eyes. Now, having said all of that, it does not mean that you're going to have a reaction to any of those shadows that have that warning label on them. It also does not mean that shadows that don't have that label might not give you a reaction as well. But it does mean that there are color additives or other ingredients in there that the FDA has not approved for use on the eyes. So I was super bummed about that because I do love using a glitter every now and then, and you know, I love using colors like this. But it's something that I was caught off guard by when I got this palette, and I want to make sure that you all know what you're getting. Now, there are tons of people who say, hey, I really don't care. I don't have sensitive eyes. I'm going to use them on my eyes. I don't care. Great, go for it. But if you are like me and you have sensitive eyes, or you're a contact lens wearer like I am, you just might want to know that you need to be super careful with those shadows. Now, let's go ahead and jump into the tutorial, and then I'll finish out this video with my final thoughts. So for starters, as always, I used an eyeshadow primer. Today I used the one from Smashbox, and now I'm going to take my E50 from Sigma and go into the Aura shade and use the matte formula of that one. And I am just going to really lightly put this along the brow bone. It is super pigmented, and I do have a bit of sunless tanner on from the weekend, so I have to be careful when I'm a little more tanned. I don't want to go too light along the brow bone here. And now I'm going to take a Morphe M504, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix a little bit of Aura and Soothe, both in the matte formula. Because Soothe is a little bit dark for me, personally, I don't like to start with something quite that dark in the crease. So I just dip a little bit into Aura and a little bit into Soothe and start blending this first through the crease. And this just helps, once I get a little bit further down, helps everything blend a little bit easier. So again, dipping into Aura, Soothe, and doing a real light wash of this through the crease and then blending up into that brow bone highlight color. So you can see it just gave us a little bit of color, and now I'm going to go in directly into just Soothe and use this further down. These mattes are very pigmented, and I feel like as long as you've set your lid or you do something like I am, starting off with a little bit of a powder finish to blend into, I haven't had any issues blending these matte colors out. So there you go. So that gave a much more gradual effect rather than just going straight into the crease with Soothe. So now I'm going to switch brushes and stick with that same color, Soothe, and this is just the Sigma E25, and I'm going to deepen this outer corner just a little bit and just show you the depth of color that you can get with these matte shades. And then I'm going to now take that same brush, the E25, and I'm going to go into Ritual now. So this is a really pretty brown. I like this shade of brown. It's not too warm, not too cool. I feel like it is a great everyday shade that you can use to deepen the outer corner. And then I'm going to clean off that brush and go back with a little more Soothe and just blend around the edge just a little bit. Now for the lid, I'm going to stay in the Aura row, and I'm going to go in with the metallic first, and then I'm going to tap just a little bit of that sequin shade just so you can see how that performs. So first with the metallic, and I am going to use my finger. I typically like to do this anyway. I just think metallic shadows apply a little bit better with your finger. And so I'm just putting this all over the lid. You can see that is a really pretty, just kind of champagne color with just a hint of some pink. So really pretty. And then I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to lightly tap into sequin, and it has some pink glitter in there. And so I'm just going to actually just tap this over the top of that metallic shade and added just a little bit of a little extra sparkle, but it's not like adding the glitter row to it. So now I'm going to go back with the E25 and blend over the edge. And then I'm going to take just a tiny little bit of the Ritual metallic shade, just tap this right here, just to provide a little bit of a gradation of color there. And then just one more blend through the crease. Now to finish off the upper lash line, I'm going to line it with the Urban Decay 24/7 pencil in the shade Demolition. And I'm just going to put down a tiny little bit of this, and then I'll top it with a little bit of shadow just to set it in place. So I'm just going to take that halfway along the upper lash line, and now I'm going to go into the palette and go in, I'll just use the Morphe M165, and I'm going to top it with a little bit of the Ritual matte shade and just set this in place here. And then I'm also going to use the shadow just on this inner part here and just press that brush right into the lash line. And I have actually found both the Ritual and Memory shades to work well even on their own, just as liner. I'm going to just wing out this a little tiny bit. And then on the lower lashes, I'm just going to take shadows. So I'm going to start off with Ritual on that same brush, go right up against the lash line. And you can see that gave a pretty good dark line there. And then I'm going to clean off that brush and go back into Soothe and go right below that line and just use this to soften the edge slightly. And then I'll take that Soothe shade all the way a little bit past the halfway mark, just to give us a really nice little bit of shadow down here. And go back and add just a touch more Ritual right into the roots of the lashes. Okay, so after cleaning up under the eye, applying the rest of my makeup, there's just one final touch, and that's inner corner highlight. So I'm going to go back to the metallic shade in the Aura row and just add a little bit of brightness right here. And I do think this shade is the perfect inner corner highlight color. So in conclusion, this palette retails for $48. Now, if you take out those 9 shadows that are not suitable for use on the eyes, it still leaves you with 15 shadows, and the cost per eyeshadow averages out to be $3.20. So it is still a really good price for good quality shadows. Now, I am hoping that in Tati's next palette, her volume 2, that perhaps she will change this up a little bit. I would love, instead of glitters, to see a row of maybe a pearl or satin finish, and then instead of the sequin row, I would actually love to have another row of mattes, and they could just be a different shade of that particular color family. So have one row that is lighter shade and then one row with a darker shade in those color families. So that's just my personal opinion, my personal preference, but overall good quality. But just know that with this palette and with other eyeshadow palettes now coming on the market, start reading the ingredients labels and proceed with caution. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this helpful. I'll see you next time. Bye.